Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Ravens Call. Again, I'm your host, Tyler Cameron. If you haven't already or don't know what this podcast can consist of, you can go to my 1 minute intro video or you can follow along week by week. We're on week 17, about to go into week 18 this up and coming week. So we're about to the end of the season before playoffs. So very exciting to get to this point. It's fast how fast the season's already gone so far. This podcast is available on Spotify, YouTube, as well as Apple Podcasts. You can find the links to all of those in each of the streaming services or look it up on my Instagram page, The Ravens Call Podcast. On that note, hope everyone is having a great Wednesday, a great start to the new year, and ready to listen to some exciting NFL and Baltimore Ravens news. All right. So I think we left off. There was a Monday night game on week 16, so I'll go over that really quickly for you. It was the Saints and the Packers, where the Packers just blew out the Saints. Saints were very crippled with injuries. Their offense looked terrible per usual, and the Packers' offense was just beautiful. They were able to clinch a playoff spot. 34-0, pretty easy game for them. Smooth sailing on that front. So we get kicked off into week 17, where we had two Christmas games. We'll talk about the Ravens one in a little bit, but it was a very good one for the Ravens. But the first Christmas game was the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Steelers. Now, the Steelers had lost two straight. They finally faced teams where you actually have to play good in both sides of the ball to win, and it really has affected them greatly because now you're starting to see that they're not as good when they're facing good teams. Offensively or defensively, they've kind of lost a step. So going into this game, I had kind of assumed that Kansas City was going to win, and it was just that. Kansas City was able to somewhat run the ball, but mostly pass the ball at will. Patrick Mahomes starting to feel it, 29-38, 320 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kelsey, 8 receptions, 84 yards and touchdown. Worthy, 8 receptions, 79 yards and touchdown. They're able to just do it at will at this point right now. Steelers defense and offense had no sense in being in this game. It was bad, even with Pickens back in the lineup. But Kansas City is now 15-1. They've claimed the number 1 seed. They are now really set to push forward. I think that they're not going to be starting their starters in Week 18. They're just going to kind of give them some buys for reasons, many other reasons for that. Let's go over the Steelers. Steelers now lost 3 straight. Russell Wilson, 23 of 37, 205, and 5 sacks, as well as an interception. Able to run the ball pretty well with Warren and Harris both having over 70 yards. Pat Freiermuth, 7 receptions, 60 yards. Pickens, 3 receptions, 50 yards. But other than that, they just could get nothing done. They were able to score a touchdown in the second, but after that, it was just blowout city for them. So that puts the Steelers in a wild card spot at the 5 seed. And it jumped after the Ravens. Obviously, you can see the Ravens won. It jumps the Ravens up to the division leader at the 3 seed. Now, we had some exciting Christmas games. They were very high scoring, very good. And Amazon Prime in the last Thursday night game said, you know what? I'm going to put on a show. I am going to get it where no one scores in the second half. It ends 6-3. And that's what happened here. By the way, the Chiefs won 29-10 there. The Seahawks and the Bears. The Seahawks won 6-3. It was probably one of the worst games I've ever seen. I'm thankful I wasn't really paying attention. Yeah, Caleb Williams, 7 sacks. That's about the most fun thing to say about this game. Both teams, well, the Bears are eliminated. They were already eliminated from the playoffs, but Seahawks win kept them alive. But things happened on Sunday for the Rams that got it to where the Rams have clinched the division. But yeah, Seahawks won 6-3. It was one of the worst games ever this season, I would say. So I'm sorry to the people that had to watch that. On to the Saturday games. Really good Saturday games. Let's go over the Broncos one. Broncos, Bengals both went. Really needed this game. Denver needed to win to clinch, as well as Cincinnati needed to win to stay alive and hopefully get some key losses for the Colts, as well as for Miami to make the playoffs, which really no one wants any business with the Bengals being in the playoffs. At this point, they're playing very well. Joe Burrow is having an MVP type caliber season. The only problem with his numbers is he can't put up any more, or he misses a fourth down drive that just gets them to lose the game, but not today. So Denver ended up losing this one through their fault of their own, pretty much. They had a chance to pretty much let the game tie, and if they would have tied, Bengals would have been out, Broncos would have won, would have clinched, and we would have been set in stone. But Denver was not able to capitalize in overtime. They were given 2 drives and went 3 and out for both, and the defense can only hold up so much. But let's go into that. Bo Nix, 24-31, 219 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Decent game from him. Jalen McLaughlin, 10 carries, 69 yards, and then they just stopped running the ball, which really hurt them. Marvin Mims Jr., 8 receptions, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sutton, 5 receptions, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Really good game from Denver on that side. One of the big things that was going into this game was Pat Surtain versus Ja'Marr Chase. Would they be guarding him all game? And for the most part, they did. For the most part. And then they stopped, which was bad. But we'll get into that in just a second. So Joe Burrow, 39-49, 412 yards and 3 touchdowns. Really monster game from him. Weren't really able to run the ball that well. T. Higgins, 11 receptions, 131 yards and 3 touchdowns. Monster game from him. Riley Moss was not on the top of his game, so T. Higgins just torched him. Ja'Marr Chase, 9 receptions, 102 yards. Mike Gesicki, 10 receptions, 86 yards. So good game from the Bengals, but it came down to the wire, and Bengals were able to clutch it out. Ja'Marr Chase, yes, he had 9 receptions, 102 yards, and you're saying, well, Surtain must have gotten cooked if he was guarding him all game. He was actually not guarding him all game. Pat Surtain held Chase to 3 receptions for 27 yards. He should have been on him all game. But they would motion Chase, and he would not go with him. And I said, watch, they're going to throw it to Chase this play. And every time they would. And that's the thing is like, as a defense, you can only do so much in matchups. But if you need to play man, play man. They weren't able to play man sometimes due to the fact that T. Higgins was the one they were just able to torch everyone with at that time. So things need to be done for Denver's defense. I know that they'll lock up and get set once Riley Moss is back to normal, but Pat Surtain putting on another great performance where I think he could maybe be a sneaky good pick for Defensive Player of the Year. I think he deserves it. But yeah, so that's the first Saturday game. Chargers were able to win. They secured their playoff spot. They're in the number 6 seed right now. They beat the Patriots 40-7. A really good game from McConkey, Herbert, and J.K. Dobbins coming back for them. So good game from them. They're the 6th seed. There's only 1 spot left in the playoffs, and it's up to the Broncos, Bengals, and Dolphins at this point. For the Saturday night game, which was for big money here, was the Cardinals and the Rams. So the Rams end up winning 13-9. And the Rams were able to score 10 points pretty quickly in the second quarter, and then it just became a field goal type game. Kyler Murray, 33 of 48, 321 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Not really his best game. James Conner was able to run and then got injured to where that really just put a damper on their season. Trey McBride, 12 receptions, 123 yards, and a touchdown. Really good game from him. This is his first touchdown all year, which is kind of shocking there. Marvin Harrison, 6 receptions, 96 yards. But yeah, it was a good game. it's really bad to see that Cooper Kupp, if you have Cooper Kupp in the playoffs, I feel sorry because he was dominant throughout the year. And now in the playoffs, he's like, you know what? Screw your fantasy championships. I'm going to lose it for you. Uh, Matthew Stafford, 17 to 32, 189 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Kyron Williams, 13 carries, 56 yards and touchdown. Puka Nacua, 10 receptions, 129 yards. Cooper Kupp, 1 reception, 29 yards. That's what really killed you. So 13-9 win. Rams were able to win, and then they got some key wins from other teams. They needed 3 out of the 5 teams to win on Sunday for them to clinch. And what I mean by that is they play the Seahawks next week. And if the Seahawks win, they both have the same record. But the Rams have a better strength of schedule because certain teams won on Sunday, to where now the Rams have clinched no matter what happens on Sunday. So they are set for the playoffs at that point. Now on to the Sunday games, where the Bills just ridiculed the Jets. Jets scored 14 points in the end, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, they put in Tyrod Taylor, and he played better than Aaron Rodgers did. Aaron Rodgers, 12 of 18, 112 yards and 2 interceptions. Terrible game from him. Terrible game running the ball. Garrett Wilson was able to have a good pass game, but other than that, they were terrible. Josh Allen, 16 to 27, 182 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ran the ball for 17 yards and a touchdown. So decent game from him. It's going to be a close one for MVP this season between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson on that. But yeah, it's pretty much blowout. Jets are a terrible organization, and it's just so bad for them at this point. Raiders, 25-10 win against the Saints. Aiden O'Connell had a good game. 20 to 35, 2 touchdowns. Abdullah for them, 20 carries, 115 yards. Brock Bowers, 7 receptions, 77 yards. And Myers with a touchdown. Brock Bowers is probably one of the best tight ends right now. He set the NFL record for most receiving yards by a rookie, as well as most receptions as well. So good for him. Spencer Rattler, not as good of a game, through 2 picks. Other than that, pretty cookie cutter game. A lot of these games I'm going to kind of briefly go through because a lot of them, were blowouts or games that really didn't matter. Just because there is so much to talk about going forward, because the next week is such a huge week for a lot of teams. And I want to make sure that people know what playoff implications come from next week's games or what happened this week. So the upset of the week, which was the Giants versus the Colts. Now, the Giants had nothing to play for. Actually, they were the number 1 seed for the draft. And the Colts were just trying to stay alive, making sure that they were able to be a part of the playoffs. So the Giants won 45 to 33. Now, the Colts have a really good defense. I thought the defense would be good. And their defense played terribly. And Drew Lock torched them, which is funny to say that Drew Lock torched a team. But let's get into it. Joe Flacco, 26 to 38, 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Jonathan Taylor, 32 carries, 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pierce, 6 receptions, 122 yards and touchdown. Pittman Jr., 9 receptions, 109 yards and a touchdown. Like, they had a good game. They just, 2 interceptions and a fumble really cost them. Drew Lock, the Giants, 17 to 23, 309 yards, 4 touchdowns. Neighbors, 7 receptions, 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Neighbors is very good up-and-coming star for them, as well as Tyrone Tracy Jr., the running back. They were also able to get a 100-yard kick return that really helped them. But yeah, it was back and forth a little bit in the fourth quarter, but the Giants just stayed with it. So amazing job for the Giants. The Colts are now eliminated in the funniest of fashions because it's against the Giants. So on to Cowboys and Eagles. Eagles clinched the division. They're kind of set to be the 2 seed at this point. Saquon Barkley had 31 carries, 167 yards. That put him over 2,000 yards. and he has, I think, 101 yards, I believe, to pass Eric Dickerson for the most rushing yards in a single season. We'll see if he plays next week. Cowboys had a touchdown in the first quarter and then played terribly after that. Eagles just dominated this game 41-7. Onto the Panthers and Bucks. Bryce Young, 15-28, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not able to run the ball. Thielen, 5 receptions, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. I really think that Thielen, if he is a free agent, he needs to go somewhere else because he's got really good talent. I would consider him on the Broncos because he's such a veteran presence for Bo Nix, and he can also help the other receivers that are young. But there's that. So Panthers scored 14. Tampa Bay said, you know what? I'm going to score a little better. I'm going to score 48 points. Baker Mayfield, 27-32, 359 yards and 5 touchdowns. He threw as many touchdowns as he did incompletions. Amazing job from him. Bucky Irving, 20 carries, 113 yards. Mike Evans, 8 receptions, 97 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans needs a good amount of yards to get his 1,000-yard season, which he's had every year he's been in the league, which I hope he does. I'm really pulling for that, really watching out for them on that. So Tampa Bay won, which puts them at 9-7. And as we'll discuss later, they are the number 1 in their division. They're sitting at the 3 or the 4 seed right now in the playoffs. So good on them. Jaguars and Titans. Yeah. Jaguars won 20-13. Titans are now a top 3 pick for the season. Dolphins and Browns. Dolphins, they were without Tua Tagovailoa, but Tyler Huntley came in 22-26, 225 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Huntley ran for 52 yards and a touchdown. Tyreek Hill finally became who he's supposed to be, 9 receptions, 105 yards. And we got Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 24-47, 170 yards and an interception. He has 1 touchdown and 10 picks in all his games combined. Jerry Jeudy, 12 receptions, 94 yards. Good game from him. But other than that, Browns are kind of looking to tank, I think. Miami is still alive at 8-8. If they're able to win and the Broncos lose, they are able to take the spot over next week. We will see. On to the game of the week, which was the Vikings and the Packers. This game was not close. It was kind of over in the third, and then Green Bay was able to claw their way back a little bit, but too little, too late. Jordan Love, 19-30, 185 yards and a touchdown. Josh Jacobs, 17 carries, 69 yards and a touchdown. Dobbs was there, but they just didn't have the manpower. They didn't have the best passing game that really was able to affect the game. Sam Darnold, 33-43, 377 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception. Good game from him. Aaron Jones, only 47 yards rushing. Justin Jefferson, 8 receptions, 92 yards. Touchdown by Naylor and Addison. Good game from them. They were able to hold on to this. They are now 14-2. Green Bay is actually now the 7 seed right now at 11-5. Vikings are going to play Detroit for the NFC North title as well as the 1 seed. So whoever wins that will go to the 1 seed. Whoever loses that is the 5 seed. On to the Sunday night game, which was the Falcons and the Commanders. Now, for me, I was rooting for the Commanders. I don't think that the Falcons really deserve a playoff spot. They're just not a good team, in my utmost opinion, but it is what it is. But we had Michael Penix Jr., 19-35, 223 yards, touchdown and interception. Bijan Robinson, 17 carries, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. Drake London, 7 receptions, 106 yards, touchdown. Kyle Pitts, 4 receptions for 44 yards and a touchdown. Kyle Pitts finally showed up. He's just he's probably one of the most disappointing draft picks right now. But Jane Daniels, 24-36, 227, 3 touchdowns and interception. also ran for 127 yards. Just a good game overall from Daniels. But the game was able to go to overtime, 24-24. Commanders got the ball first, and Jayden Daniels said, nope, I want the touchdown. So they were able to score a touchdown to win the game. So there's poor clock management from the Falcons on that, but Falcons dropped to 8-8. They have to win and hope that the Buccaneers lose to get in the playoffs for next week. On to Monday night's game, which was actually pretty close. 49ers played really well at the start and then just kind of fell off in the second half like they normally do. Jared Goff, 26-34, 303 yards, 3 touchdowns. Gibbs, 18 carries, 117 yards and touchdown. Williams, Laporta, Brown, all touchdowns, all over 60 yards. Good games from them. Brock Purdy, 27-35, 377 yards, 3 touchdowns. And the 2 interceptions happened in the third quarter, which was Detroit was able to capitalize on and be able to win that game. Arendo, 34 yards rushing. Parsall, 8 receptions, 141 yards and a touchdown. Really good game from the rookie coming back. Good for them to see. George Kittle, 8 receptions, 112 yards. So good on them. Deebo Samuel, 1 reception, 5 yards and a touchdown. That's typical for him. He's been the biggest letdown this season. But other than that, and Jake Moody missed an extra point and 2 field goals for the 49ers, which really cost them. But Detroit was able to win 40-34. Detroit is 14-2, top seed in the NFC, but they will have to face the Vikings next week for the title. If they lose that, they go straight down to the 5 seed and will have to play in the wild card, or they can get the 1 seed and get that bye. But that is it for the NFL in Week 17. This is the last Thursday night game and the last Monday night game of the year. So very exciting to see that we're getting into the nitty-gritty of this. But we're going to head into the Baltimore Ravens segment. Very excited to talk about that, but here we go. On to the Baltimore Ravens. All right, so we had Lamar Jackson just cooking, but the score of the Baltimore Ravens game was 31-2. The defense scored a shutout. We gave up a safety with Derrick Henry, and that was it. Lamar Jackson, 10 of 15, 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. We were able to run the ball pretty effectively with both Jackson and Henry, which was really good. Derrick Henry, 27 carries, 147 yards and a touchdown. Lamar Jackson, 4 carries, 87 yards and a touchdown, was able to break off for a 48-yard touchdown run. Mark Andrews, 2 receptions, 68 yards a touchdown. Flowers, Bateman, likely. There wasn't much we had to pass. That was the awesome part, is we kind of rest them and know we have that pass game when need be. But in the fourth quarter, we kind of let Josh Johnson and the others kind of come in and play. At that point, it was a dominating game from us on that. CJ Stroud, 17 of 31, 185 yards and an interception. Had 5 sacks. Really good by our defense there. Mixon, 26 carries. They're just a terrible running team. Collins, 3 receptions, 59 yards, and that was about it. We were able to stop them a lot on 4th down. We were able to get an interception with Kyle Hamilton, so really good game from us. 52-yard field goal from Tucker, and all his extra points made, 100% since coming back from that bye. 10 or 11 days schedule with 3 games. We were able to go 3-0 against, we would play the Giants, Steelers, and then Houston. 2 of those teams are playoff teams, so able to beat them in dominating fashion. We were able to put up more than 30 on both, so very excited. Huge momentum going into the playoffs at that point, especially at that 3 seed, if we can stay on the gas pedal there. Just very excited for the season. Very excited that the team is doing so well, especially defensively, because the defense, at the start was not that great. And for us to be able to shut them out was truly amazing. We were able to score points at will, which was very nice. So, yeah, very excited to go into Week 18 strong, and hopefully we can keep that momentum into the playoffs. Now on to Week 18 predictions and previews. All right, so we got two Saturday games. The factors here are the Browns and the Ravens. The Ravens are favored by 17.5. That is a lot of points. I don't think we'll win by 17.5, but we will win by a good amount. If they do face Dorian Robinson-Johnson, we will win by a lot, but we'll see there. Depends on how our defense does. But the reason that they put the Bengals and the Steelers here, as well as the Ravens, is if the Ravens win, the Ravens have the 3 seed. The Steelers need to play because they want to find the right matchup. If they lose and Chargers win, they'll play us, or you'd rather face the Texans if you're a wild card spot. You want to face the Texans because they are the worst team in the playoffs by far, and that's including the Rams and the Bucks at this point in time. They are the worst team. So the Ravens should win that game by a lot. Bengals at Steelers. This is another good game for the Bengals too, because the Bengals have to win to stay in. If they lose, they're out of the playoffs. No matter if the Broncos lose or Miami loses, they're out. So there's that. So Bengals are favored by 1.5, which I do think the Bengals are a very good team. I think the Bengals will probably win this game. I'm rooting for the Steelers because I do want to see the Broncos in the playoffs. I don't want to see the Bengals in the playoffs, but whatever happens, happens. So we'll see. We'll see on that. But should be a very exciting game there. On to Sunday games. There's the Chiefs and the Broncos. The Broncos favored by 9.5. The reason the Broncos favored by 9.5 is because Chiefs are supposedly resting some starters. I don't know what starters those are. I know Mahomes and Kelsey are probably going to be rested. Where hopefully Denver can beat the second string and win, and then they're in. Where they don't have to worry about if Miami loses, because they will be playing the same time, so they can't really scoreboard watch. They'll know the Bengals ahead of time on that front. There, Panthers and Falcons. Falcons win there for sure. I think Denver will win as well. Falcons need to win and hope for a Tampa Bay loss against the Saints. Commanders and Cowboys. Commanders are already set. They're just trying to find their place on if they're the 6 seed, the 5 seed. Oh, sorry, just the 6 or the 7 seed. Those are the only things. So Commanders will win here. Bears and Packers. I think the Packers will win. Packers will probably stay the 7 seed if the Commanders win there. Texans are already set in stone. It doesn't matter for them. They're the 4 seed no matter what. There's no way that they can do anything better. So it depends. I do think that the Texans will win if they play their starters. If they don't, Tennessee will win. Colts and Jaguars. Colts will win. They just have Jonathan Taylor playing really well right now. Bills and Patriots. Bills will win. I mean, there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing that can be done here. They're the 2 seed no matter what. So it's up to them where they play. If they play their starters, Bills will win. If they don't, maybe Patriots will win. Eagles and Giants. Eagles, if obviously if they play their starters, I think that Saquon will play a little bit to see. Bucks and Saints. Bucks really need this. I'm hoping that the Bucks will win. Looks like Mike Evans needs 85 more yards to get that 1,000-yard season. So I'm really hoping that Baker just chucks up to Mike Evans all game for that. Chargers and Raiders. Chargers will win that one. Chargers are just trying to make sure that they can either stay the 6 seed or maybe bump up to the 5 seed. Depends on if the Steelers lose or not. Because if the Steelers lose, then the Chargers have something to play for. If the Chargers if the Steelers win, then the Chargers have nothing to play for. They're the 6th seed from there. So we'll see on that. Seahawks and Rams. They have the Seahawks favored by 5. I think it's because the Rams may just rest their guys, honestly, because the game doesn't matter anymore. The Rams are the playoff lock. Miami against the Jets. If Tua doesn't play, I think that the Jets will win. Shockingly, I still think that the Jets just want to wreck Dolphins season at this point, but you never know. Cardinals and 49ers. The Arizona by 3.5, but if Connor doesn't play, then the 49ers win. And then on to the game of the week, the Sunday night game. Vikings and Lions for the number 1 seed in the playoffs, as well as the division title. I do think that the Lions will win. They're at home. They're a really good team. Even with their defense being crippled as is, I still think that they're going to do really well. So I think that the Lions will win here and be able to secure the number 1 spot. All right, so that is it for week 18 previews and predictions. We're going to go over some standings. We're going to go over some standings as well as some ESPN bets to show you what type of awards are going to be at the end of the year. So here we go. So for the AFC, Chiefs are already locked in at the 1 seed. Bills are already set for the 2 seed. Baltimore has to win, and they're the 3 seed, or if the Steelers lose, there. Texans are already the 4 at the 4. They can't be moved. Steelers have to win to stay the 5 seeds. They'll still play their starters because for them, the point of emphasis is you want to be the 5 seed. You want to play Texans and then be able to hopefully play whoever's next. The Chargers are the 6 seed. They can be bumped up to the 5 seed, but they cannot be dropped down to 7 seed. Broncos are the 7 seed, holding strong at 9-7. If they win, they're in. If they lose, they're hoping that Bengals and Dolphins lose, which can possibly happen. So we'll see on that. Other than that, Colts were eliminated last week because they lost to the Giants, which is hilarious. Onto the NFC, Detroit Lions are 14-2, and they're going to be facing the 5 seed Minnesota Vikings for the title. So either way, either the Lions or the Vikings will get the 1 seed or the 5 seed. Like there is no difference of anything along those lines in that. So yes, Eagles are locked in at the 2 seed. Rams have already clinched their spot. I believe they're either going to be the 3 or the 4 seed. Is how I'm looking at it. I guess that all depends on how you do it, if you're basing it off of conference or not. But if the Rams lose and Tampa Bay wins, we'll see who's the 3 or the 4 there. As I said before, Vikings or Lions will be the 5 seed. Commanders bumped up to the 6 seed after their win and the Packers' loss. So the Commanders win the tiebreaker based on conference games. So if the Commanders win, Packers really have nothing to play for. They're the 7 seed, and they'll be playing the Eagles. But we'll see there. Seahawks were eliminated because of the strength of schedule there. So it doesn't matter on that for them. Falcons are 8-8. They're the only team that can get in if the Bucks lose and they win. So that is that for them. Now we're going to go on to, all right, so this is ESPN Bets. I'm just going off of this because I just want to kind of show you what is possible here. So for Super Bowl winners, they got the Chiefs at the top spot, Lions, Bills, Eagles, Ravens, then Vikings. And I'm just going over every team that's under the 1,000 mark. AFC winner, they think it's the Chiefs, Bills, or the Ravens. NFC, they think it's the Lions, Eagles, Vikings, and then sneaky pick is the Packers. For players' futures, so here we go. We have for regular season MVP, they think it's going to be Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson's really close behind, and then Joe Burrow's pretty far behind. So it's between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson for that. I do think that a lot of voters will pick Josh Allen for regular season MVP. Saquon Barkley is offensive player of the year. It was Derrick Henry, but over time it just happened to be that way. Here's where I kind of get a little flustered here is defensive player of the year. They say it's TJ Watt. I do believe that Patrick Surtain should be defensive player of the year. He has had the biggest locks this year when it comes down to it. I really feel that he deserves that spot. TJ Watt's been there before. He really hasn't had the best last 3 games. The defense has played terribly for the Steelers to where I think Surtain should get that lock. Defensive rookie of the year, I think it's Jared Verse. I think he's a linebacker. I don't know. He lines up on the line for the Rams. Sometimes they call him defensive ends. Sometimes they call him linebackers there. Quentin Mitchell, cornerback for the Eagles, is always 1-2. I don't see Nate Wiggins, which is kind of shocking for me. Coach of the year, I think it is Kevin O'Connell by far with for the Vikings, and they have Dan Campbell. I don't know why. That's irritating to me. So you have Kevin O'Connell, Dan Campbell, and then there's Jim Harbaugh, Dan Quinn, and Sean Payton. They're all in here, right? But the third person that they have is Andy Reid, which Andy Reid did not do anything this year. There was nothing new this year. Yes, you're 15-1, but all those were one-score games that could have been easily flipped. So he's not coach of the year, shouldn't even be considered for coach of the year. I love Andy Reid, but no. A comeback player of the year, Joe Burrow is said to have win that one. Sam Darnold, J.K. Dobbins is another good one. Damar Hamlin does not count. Tim Patrick, Cameron Hayward, I don't really know, but Damar Hamlin does not be considered comeback player of the year. He was for last year, so there is that there. So a lot of people believe it's going to be the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens in the AFC. In the NFC, they think it's the Lions, Eagles, or the Vikings. It's a lot closer in the NFC than it is the AFC, which is very shocking to me. But so games that really matter for Week 18. Okay, let's go over. Ravens win, they're the 3 seed, no matter what. Steelers need to win and have the Ravens lose to them to get jumped back to the 3 seed. Bengals need to win to stay alive to get that last spot, that 7 seed. Broncos need to win to win, and they're in. They're the 7 seed. They play the Bills. Falcons need to win and have the Bucks lose for them to be in the playoffs. Commanders need to win to stay the 6 seed. Packers need to win and have the Commanders lose for them to be the 6 seed, or they play the 7 seed. Bucks need to beat the Saints or have the Falcons lose for them to be in the playoffs as the 3 or the 4 seed. Chargers need to win and have the Steelers lose for them to be a 5 seed, or else they're the 6 seed, going up against either the Steelers or the Ravens. Rams don't have anything to play for. Seahawks don't either. Their Dolphins need to win and have Denver lose for them to be in the playoffs. And then the big Sunday night game again is for the NFC North, so the division title, as well as the conference kind of title, in essence, of the 1 seed to where you get the bye. And whoever loses that drops down to the 5 seed, and they will play the 4 seed. So very big games for a lot of teams there. But very exciting week 18 going forward. Now, it is week 18. It's fastly approached. It is already upon us. It's so crazy to me that we're already at this point in time. I'm very excited to see where my Ravens team goes, as well as some other teams that could be sneaky good that could make some playoff magic happen. But very excited to see what happens going forward for Week 18 as well as in the playoffs. I will still be recording episodes talking a little more in depth with games in the playoffs because there are a lot less games to talk about, but we can go more in depth as we go through those. And then I'll talk about the Ravens leading up to it as well. And then after the season is over, we'll talk about off-season draft, stuff like that for the Ravens and a couple other teams on that. But very excited to get into the playoffs. The Ravens are looking good, 3-0. Hopefully going to go 4-0 to after their bye to just kind of kickstart and really drive into the playoffs hard. Derrick Henry is going to be looking to really make an impact for us that he could have made last year if the Titans would have just given him to us. But another thing too is Odell Beckham is a free agent. I do think that the Ravens should go out and get him. He knows our playbook. He's already been a part of this team. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's had playoff experience. He needs to be on this team as a vet. I'd rather have him than Nelson Aguilar because they still think of OBJ as a threat, and I still think he is. So I would like him to get that. If the Dolphins aren't in the playoffs and Calais Campbell gets freed, I'd love for him to come back as the Ravens. He'd be huge for us on defense. But very excited to see what happens. Oh, thank you guys for listening to this episode. I want to let you know that my podcast will be live. My podcast will be live on Wednesday at 12. My podcast will actually be live in the new year in 2025 at that point. So very excited to have another year. Very blessed to be a part of another year. Big things coming in 2025. I'll make sure to post something on my Instagram page this time. Need to start scheduling those and getting those out to you so you get those notifications. Remember that my podcast will be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So make sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform you prefer. Feel free to comment or ask any questions, and I'll make sure to address those comments or anything in the episode or in the comments section of those. Also, all the music and sound is provided by my brother-in-law, Justin. So, Justin, thank you for that. Well, Ravens Nation, thanks again for joining me on this episode. Until next time, stay fierce, stay loyal, and keep rooting for that purple and black. I will see you next time on The Ravens Call.